What's up, peeps? Julian Williams here at the distance. I got a video. This is my second and final video for the day, unless this John Molina Robert Franco fight piques my interest. More than likely it will. So I'll probably be back at the end of the day. But have any of you guys read Boxing Scene? On Boxing Scene, and I don't even normally read this. I only read it at work because I don't get viruses on that computer from Boxing Scene. So let's get into it. James Toney wants to fight Ken Shamrock in a mixed rules match. Like, what the fuck is this? Is this WWE? A mixed rules match? Like, this is how I look at it. Either you fight in a cage or you fight in a boxing ring. One of the two. Either you have a cage fight or a boxing match. One of the two. Like, Ken Shamrock, he was cool like back in the day, back when I was watching wrestling. Like, I remember him from, like, WrestleMania 13 when, what's his name? That Stone Cold Steve Austin had wrestled that Bret Hart guy. Right before that, what do you call it, the Attitude Era? Right before the Attitude Era. Like that's when Ken Shamrock was popular. That's when he was, like, a UFC fighter. And now him and I guess, you know, with James Toney was somewhat out of the picture in '97. If you compare, you know, the tail of the tape, James Toney was kind of trying to find his stride again after, you know, some major losses, like to Montel Griffith and Roy Jones Jr. So, and then, you know, he fought the rubber match against McCallum, like 95, 90, whatever it was. And what's his name? James Toney was pretty much, you know, out, you know, in obscurity at that time. But anyway, that just goes on to prove both men are old. They're old, and they both have been like, I'll tell you this straight up. In December 5th of 2008, when James Toney fought Fres Oquendo, I thought James Toney was shot at that point. I thought he was shot. Not only did I think he was shot, but I thought he lost that fight. And not only did I think he lost that fight, but I thought at that point he needed to retire. 1, the Klitschko's aren't going to fight him. 2, David Hayes not going to fight him. 3, heavyweight contenders right now are not going to fight him because he's somewhat of a high risk and a low reward. And that's what he is to the champions, or excuse me, the titleists as well. If any heavyweight fighter was going to face James Toney, it would have been Tomas Adamek. If you look at it, Tomas Adamek fought Michael Grant, Vinny Matalone, and Kevin McBride all in a year's time. He's fought these 3 fighters. So more than likely, if anybody was going to face a James Toney, it would have been Tomas Adamek. And Tomas Adamek did not face James Toney. So nobody else is going to fight James Toney. James Toney in his career has done just about everything he's needed to do except for win a major heavyweight championship. Well, he did do it in 2006 against Ruiz, but since he used roids, I never in my life seen a man use roids and come out fatter in the process. But anyway, let's get back to the point. James Toney, hands down, is one of the best fighters, one of the most skilled fighters of all time. Done pretty much everything he needed to do and accomplished everything he's been bound to accomplish. This mixed martial arts thing, I don't think he's even gonna get that far into the sport. I don't even know, like, I don't even keep up with mixed martial arts. And I know damn well that fighting the Ken Shamrock, some guy who's a wrestler back in the day. Excuse me, he was one of those UFC fighters, and then he was a wrestler, and then, you know, somebody who lost, I think, major UFC fighters, if I'm not mistaken, like 8 or 9 years ago. Like, what good does that fight do? Does it bring any money to the table? Does it attract, you know, a lot of people? Does it sell out arenas? Like I said, I'm not the type of person that looks to see a fight sell out arenas. But it's like, what's the point of doing this fight? Does this bring more media attention to yourself? Does it, you know, does it make that Shamrock guy relevant? Does it make you relevant? It doesn't. It's a fight that doesn't do anything. Like, I don't know if it's sanctioned or not. Who knows? James Toney is better off just retiring. Either retire or face, or, you know, go back to fighting on ESPN and try to get your name back out there. Like when he fought on ESPN, James Toney was one of the first fighters to go on ESPN, and one of the earlier fighters to go on ESPN and get a following on ESPN after having major losses. He went on ESPN, he fought on there for a number of years, and it led to bigger showdowns on Showtime, to where he defeated like Evander Holyfield. He had not Evander Holyfield, but Vasily Jarov, then Evander Holyfield, then later on led to Hasim Rahman and John Ruiz. So if he wants to, and I think James Toney's career is over, that's my opinion. But also, Bernard Hopkins is 46 years old, and he just won a major championship. James Toney's only like 41, 42. Can James Toney do it? Definitely. Definitely. If David, like I said, if David Haye wins and then retires, that leads to many holes in the heavyweight division. That leads to many holes. And James Toney just pretty much has to pick his slot to go into. Wow, that sounds like a sex term. But anyway, you guys know what I mean. James Toney, hands down, like I said, is one of the best fighters, one of the most skilled fighters to ever put on a pair of gloves. But now, I just think he's shot, and I think his career boxing is basically over. Like Damon Reed, who I believe he fought recently, I thought about 8 or 9 years ago he would have knocked him the fuck out. But I believe it went to the cards. But it is what it is. James Toney versus Ken Shamrock. I'm not making a prediction for this fight because I don't watch mixed martial arts. I don't know anything about how that Shamrock guy fights. The only fight I've seen him in was against that Tito Ortiz guy where he got his ass beat. That's the only fight I ever seen him in. Other than that, I only know him from wrestling, and wrestling's not real. So I'll just say this: it's gonna be a enigmatic fight. So I'm off this subject. Thanks for watching, peeps. That was The Distance. Peace.